Artyom! Should you buy Metro Last Light in 2022? Metro Last Light is a sequel to Metro 2033 and is one of the most interesting games I have played, mainly because when I first played it, I hadn't heard of the Metro series. I didn't know what it was or how it played, quite literally nothing. This was back in 2016, so to come back and play it in 2022, it was a surprisingly pleasant experience, but age does show quite heavily in some areas. So is Metro Last Light or Redux, whichever one you're planning to buy, worth buying in 2022? We'll be talking narrative and gameplay with no spoilers, and thank you for the support on the Blood Dragon review, meant a lot. You follow a soldier called Artyom who, in the first game, is responsible for an act I can't spoil that changes how the Metro works forever, and a lot of this story is about him accepting and potentially fixing that mistake, if it was even a mistake. That all depends on your viewpoint of it. Metro Last Light is a very linear game which suits the way the story is told. A lot of it is through environmental discovery like folders, notes, etc. that let you into the world of Metro a little more each time. You do have a bunch of side characters you'll meet on your journey, most of which are pretty likeable, but all in all not that memorable. There is a character called Anna in Metro Last Light that got a lot of criticism when Metro released back in 2013, and I could see why. Her character flip-flopping a fair bit, and Artyom and Anna for some reason get closer despite no real reason for it. It's I can't say much without spoiling it, so there are a few characters that aren't particularly written well, I guess you could say. That's the best way to put it. A weird choice is that Artyom doesn't speak in the game. You get these little intros to each mission where Artyom does speak, but then he just goes mute. I've no idea why they did this, as the dialogue from other characters ends up feeling really robotic and weird because Artyom never responds. Another reason why the whole Anna thing does not work very well in Last Light. You have various factions throughout the Metro, all of which representing different sides of humanity, the good, the bad, as well as the ones in the middle. It's not done with any subtlety at all, but it's nice to experience so much world building because the world of Metro is pretty damn interesting and is full of potential in terms of creativity, so I thought all of this was actually pretty great. You also get a chance to experience different cultures within these groups, seeing performances and hearing stories of the civilians surviving what they did. It's all in service of the world that's being built here every step of the way, and I loved it. Artyom is also haunted by visions that are really eerie anytime you come across them, so prepare yourselves for that, and it's used sparingly, it's never overwhelming, which is also a very good thing. Also, there is weirdly multiple endings depending on what you do throughout the game, but this was never told. I won't spoil what it is, but keep that in mind because there may not be a lot of replay value, but you can actually get those different endings, which could give you another reason to play through it again unless you look it up on YouTube like everyone else, like me. I mentioned voice acting earlier, but I have to say it's average at best. Some line delivery can be quite hilarious during very serious moments. I don't know if it's just the accents or if it's just the clunky dialogue, but I did end up laughing a fair bit, which may not even be a negative thing. Metro Last Light is a really depressing world and you're in there for 8 hours minimum, so to get a couple laughs every now and then, even if it's not meant to be, is actually a very good thing and something that works in the game's favour, which is quite nice to say. The soundtrack is also really damn good. It's used sparingly throughout, but because most of the time it would take away from the horror aspect, but man, when it plays, you know it plays, because you just hear it, it's really good. It hypes you up and it makes you scared and all sorts. It's very good. Now, Metro is pretty horror focused sometimes, but it does end up going down the action path if you play on normal difficulty, but most of the time Last Light does such a great job at placing you in situations where no matter how action packed it is, you still feel claustrophobic or lost in a world where danger roams around every corner. I mean, you can see this from the gameplay I'm showing you. Now, I'm going to keep the story section short because there is a lot to spoil here and it's definitely worth experiencing with no spoilers, so let's get to the gameplay. Metro Last Light's gameplay is absolutely phenomenal. There is nothing quite like it on the FPS market at the moment, even after all these years. They've perfectly mixed horror, action, exploration, linearity, and adventure into one tightly crafted game. I don't praise a game like that often, but Metro Last Light is slept on without a doubt. So many little things add so much to the immersion and gameplay loop. Something as simple as wearing a gas mask when you head up to the surface world and having to clean it every now and then adds so much to this beast. Gunplay feels so damn good. Guns feel like killing machines with recoil stronger than Vin Diesel's ego and AI that actually attempts to flank you, albeit they have flaws, we'll get to that. Enemy variety for mutated creatures, especially on the surface world, is great, providing unique challenges every step of the way, making every encounter a massive decision. Do I use my ammo or do I desperately try to conserve as much of it as possible to use at an upgrade station? Decisions are made every step of the way. You can customize your different weapons from silencers to extended ammo magazines, along with some really unique weapons along the way that suits the world of Metro Last Light. The level design, while pretty simple most of the time, works incredibly well in these tight areas. It gives you that perfect balance of nervousness, yet you always know if you do this right, you're getting out alive, and that's something only horror games can achieve. No horror film can match that feeling. Animals stalk you, desperately waiting for that perfect moment to strike. Hounds scream for backup, and flying creatures wait for you to take you into the air and drop you to your death. So anytime you go up to the surface, remember,
misery, 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 that's what you've chosen.
The sound design is outrageously good. I'm not going to talk about it, just listen to this short clip. I'm going to show you and just enjoy it. I need to say less. Just watch. Humans aren't nearly as interesting, unfortunately. You have your normal enemies, and then the enemies that I call brutes when alarms get set off, and it's just not great, but it gets the job done. If you aren't careful, you're going to get wiped out pretty quick, because they do flank you on harder difficulties. You bet your ass you're going to be raging at times if you're not playing carefully. You have to conserve your ammo, filters, gas mask, and torch on the go at all times, which just adds more to the intensity and immersion. I keep saying that, but there is just so much to talk about for such a short game that kind of sells itself. Going up to the surface, the game completely changes. You have a time limit based on how many filters you've collected, as well as being the weakest guy out there. The mutated animals will tear you apart if you're not careful, so prepare yourself for that. You can play however you like, whether you're a stealth person or an action person. It's all here. You can play how you want, but you are limited by the game's mechanics naturally. This isn't Metal Gear or Devil May Cry, this is Metro Last Light, and you play by its rules, and those rules pretty damn good. That being said, Metro Last Light is a very linear game with 1 or 2 missions with small, cool environments to explore, so there isn't much replay value unless you play on higher difficulties. There are a few side quests, but most of the time you will completely miss them if you aren't fully immersed, and listening to every little conversation can get a bit tedious, so I guess you could keep a lookout for them on second playthroughs, but I wouldn't make it a priority. There are plenty of achievements to get as well, or PlayStation trophies to add to your list. Metro Last Light is currently on sale on PlayStation for like £3, and I think to this day, Last Light is still worth the full price, despite its short length. Thank you for watching.